Okay, let me get, sorry.
No, that's cool.
And here's the new. No, you love it.
You're a few minutes late.
I did. Actually, they didn't only let me put like an hour and a half.
Looks like
Hi there. Welcome. Sorry to be late. Welcome to the June 18th, 2015 Downtown Design Review Committee meeting. First order of business is turn off your phones. That's always a reminder to myself. And roll call.
Betsy Brunstetter.
Present.
Gigi Faulkner.
Present.
Charles Ainsworth. Ike Akinwande. Corey Bates. Connie Scothorn. And Richard Tannenbaum. You have a quorum.
Great. I'm assuming everyone's read the minutes. Thank you. That was Dick and Ike. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. There is a case withdrawn.
Yeah, I just want to point out for everybody that 54, when it was originally submitted to us, it had two items, one for demolition of the building and two for construction of the parking lot. The applicant is withdrawing the new parking lot, but the demolition is still on the agenda in one of the later agenda items.
Okay. Great. And then I am going to move a very special item to the top of the agenda. We are losing one of our very wonderful commissioners, Ike Akinwande, and I have a resolution to read for Ike. This is your last meeting. We're very sad. We're hoping that you'll move back to Oklahoma City soon. A resolution of the Downtown Design Review Committee of the City of Oklahoma City acknowledging Ike Akinwande for his valuable service and dedication to the Downtown Design Review Committee. Whereas Ike Akinwande has faithfully devoted his time and expertise to serve the citizens of Oklahoma City as a Downtown Design Review Committee member from August 2011 to June 2015. Can you believe that? And whereas the committee has benefited greatly from Ike Akinwande's knowledge and experience as an engineer with the knowledge of urban design principles, and whereas Ike Akinwande has demonstrated uncommon dedication to the committee through his methodical attention to detail and earnest regard for the applicable standards and sorry, these A's are getting me, and guidelines in consideration of projects presented to the committee. And whereas Ike Akinwande's participation in committee deliberations has always been characterized by steadfast and constant perseverance to promote the successful long-term revitalization and enhancement of downtown design review districts subject to committee review, and whereas Ike Akinwande has consistently treated applicants, citizens, fellow committee members, and staff with respect and courtesy, whereas Ike Akinwande's compassionate nature and collaborative spirit have served the community well in resolving conflicts and providing applicants with sound aesthetic and technical advice, whereas the fulfillment of Ike Akinwande's responsibilities on the committee was achieved with an earnest devotion to the well-being of the community and the overall betterment of downtown. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Downtown Design Review Committee hereby respectfully commends Ike Akinwande for his outstanding years of service to the Downtown Design Review Committee of Oklahoma City, adopted by the Downtown Design Review Committee of the City of Oklahoma City this 18th day of June 2015. And we have an official copy for you, but it's missing Connie's signature. So we will get that signature and get this to you. Thank you. Now we have another item that we're going to move up. Oh, okay. Do I have a motion adopting that?
I move to adopt the resolution.
Thank you. That was Gigi and Dick. All in favor? Any opposed? I think we should move into the last chair. Okay. We are going to move another item up because we had a little mess up with the notice. So we have a presentation by Mark Beffert on some very exciting new work. So, Mark, would you mind coming forward?
Well, thank you, Commissioners, and I appreciate the opportunity. Your agenda says that myself and Mark Tolson are going to talk. Mark Tolson is our architect in the project. He unfortunately is stuck in Ardmore. I understand that due to the Arbuckles, there's some rock and landslide, and they actually have part of the highway closed off. And then in another section, they actually have it closed off because of flooding waters. So, so Andy Burnett's going to give the presentation on the project, and Andy's my partner, along with Zach Martin, on this particular project. And Andy's intimately involved and probably will do as good, if not a better job, of articulating what our thoughts are. I just want to start off by saying, I'm humbled to really work on this project. As some of you guys know, our firm has a strong commitment to downtown Oklahoma City. Andy Burnett is very, very strong in the multi-housing project, but this will be one of our, we do a lot of development, but we haven't done a housing development. So when the Halls reached out to us and asked if we were interested in doing this, we probably weren't the safe choice, but we believe that we're the right choice because our firm has a strong commitment to downtown. We're going to be here for a long time. We're not selling anything. We're actually committing more dollars to downtown Oklahoma City. And as a result, I think the Halls have that same mentality. So we have joined forces. And what we're trying to do in this area, we're just a small piece of it. There's really, as you guys know, are three elements of it. It starts with the 21C Hotel. And it also has the music venue that I think you're going to hear later today, the plans for that. And all three of us are working very well together to try to create a new community or a new venue. And as I've been investing in downtown Oklahoma City for 15 years. I currently live downtown, so I have the ability to observe, and I spend probably I spend 360 some days a year in downtown Oklahoma City just observing, and I love it here. And I've learned that it's about this isn't really necessarily a real estate deal for us. It's for us. It's creating something that is creating excitement, is creating value, and is creating an area that people want to be in, and we're really excited for it. And I'm excited for you guys to see our plan. It's purely conceptual. We have a lot of challenges with roads and streets, and you'll see here we have actually 4 different structures that are being designed and built. It's not like we have a piece of land, we're putting up an apartment complex and calling it a day. We're actually having to combine 4 different, not connected, but in close proximity to each other. So I appreciate your time, and without further ado, I'm going to bring Andy Burnett up here.
Just a quick, and for any of you guys, this is one of a cool opportunity for us to see a project ahead of time. And we also feel like it's a great opportunity to mention some things to you that we are concerned about, if we are concerned about anything. So don't be upset. We're probably going to make some comments at the end of your presentation, but we're really excited to see this happen.
No, great, I appreciate that, and later on in your agenda, you're going to be asked, we have 3 structures that need to come down, along with some metal facilities. You'll hear from Andy, but we're going to save the facade of those in one of those structures and add it into our element. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Andy Burnett. I got home last night about 2 o'clock in the morning from a 2-week road trip. I was not expecting to be up here this morning. I got 2 phone calls from Mark Befford. I declined the first because I was on the line with my wife. When he called back, Mark never calls twice. And I knew something was up, and he said, "You're up." So here I am. I'll give it my best, but I guess this is what we get for hiring a Dallas-based architect. So the project that we are contemplating are these 5 sites in yellow. The purple site you'll hear about a little bit later. That is going to be the music venue and the restaurant. The green site is obviously the 21C Museum. When Clay Moss with Hall Capital reached out to me 6 or 7 months ago to start talking about this concept, we were pretty excited, but we knew that the site had some challenges. We love the proximity to downtown, to Film Row. We were a little concerned about the jail being so close and the fast food restaurants to the south. You know, we were really shooting for a very urban, contemporary feel, modern, and we weren't quite positive how to tie all of that together with our neighbors. So one thing that we kind of zoned in on pretty early was Fred Jones Road. We felt that Fred Jones Road had the opportunity to be something pretty great, and we really wanted to focus our time and energy and effort. And one of my comments to Mark Tolson was really focus on Fred Jones Road. Try to figure out how to not inwardly focus the development, but tie everything into that road. Because we had 4 different or 5 different buildings, it was kind of this goofy, how do you tie them all together, being spread out? And we really felt that Fred Jones Road was the key to that. And as I get through these plans, I think you'll see how we're trying to make that a placemaking opportunity, focusing a lot of retail and money on improving Fred Jones Road. So you can see Fred Jones Road today. It's pretty hard to pull that vision together. It's pretty rough. You got a really nice view of the jail, and then you've got this building here, which is what we're anticipating being the music venue. So here's our overall site plan, and this is a little presumptuous because Building A, if you'll notice Building A, Fred Jones Road actually continues running right through the middle of this building. We are attempting to work with the city to vacate that. Whether we're successful there or not, we don't know yet. But we feel that's a pretty important piece of our development for a couple of reasons. Number one, it really helps kind of minimize the impact of the jail. It'll be a 5-story building right here, and so when you're standing on Fred Jones Avenue for some festival, you will not be able to see the jail because of this design. The other reason that we would like to vacate that street is it makes this building much more functional. By being able to do this garage and not a stack and wrap, but our version of a stack and wrap development here, it really helps the economics of Building A. If you cut this in half, you're left with this pretty small site here. And one of the challenges with this site is how small all of these sites are. And by these being so small, we've had to do podium parking on most of these buildings, and that really has increased our costs. And so if we're able to vacate Fred Jones, stretch this building across Fred Jones and tie it into this garage, it brings our construction costs dramatically down. It improves the aesthetics from Main Street. We feel like it's a win on multiple fronts. Fred Jones Avenue dead ends 1 block north of us, and we've already got most of the neighbors on board. That's going to be a pretty important piece for us. We've designed a water wall right here, similar to what you see in Las Vegas at Aria Hotel. A little bit scaled down, obviously, but it's pretty nice. And one of the things I'd like to point out is how we're programming all of this retail. We've tried to bring retail to the street front on all of these buildings, and as I walk you through each building, I'll bring that more into focus. 320 units total, around 19 to 22,000 square feet of retail, depending upon how we finish up the site plan. We've got over 800 parking spots. We plan on parking not only our development, our retailers, but also a portion of the music venue, all of 21C Hotel, and ADG. So here's Building A. This is that water wall I was referencing. This is the easternmost side of Building A with Fred Jones running right here. Again, Building A, 2,000 square feet of retail just east of Fred Jones Avenue. And then we've got almost 9,000 square feet here, and we're actually working with a tenant that wants all of this space, basically everything east or west of the garage that fronts Classen. We feel pretty good about that, but we're not there yet. So this hopefully will be programmed purely as retail. And I've not done this before. Am I supposed to stop for questions along the way or wait till the end?
Keep going.
Okay.
Right.
Again, second floor of Building A, and then there's the facade of Building A. This was a difficult facade to program because you didn't want this really long, contiguous building. And we're trying to figure out, do we make the east side look much different than the west side and make them look like two different buildings with the garage in the middle, and that's kind of been the debate internally. You can see the garage here. We've tried to put a storefront on the first floor and then make it look like units up top. Now we move to Building B, which is my favorite building. Building B, we wanted to leave it as 4 stories so that the 4th and 5th floor of the 21C Museum could see over it. This building is programmed with live-work units. We'll have 5 live-work units here on the first floor facing the 21C Hotel. We envision these being something for aspiring artists, startup architect, maybe a one-man shop, people like that want to have a storefront close to the museum and live above there. And there'll be 2 to 3 story units here for their live-work units, and then we'll just have traditional apartments on the 3rd and 4th floor facing downtown and facing 21C. We think this will be a really nice unit, but again, we only have 18 units here because the site is so small. It's a podium building with 31 parking spots. Not very efficient, but we think this building has got the potential to be pretty cool. See, we've got penthouse units on the 4th floor. That's the vision there. So this is Building C. This building is south of the 21C Hotel, and it's west of the music venue. This is fronting Sheridan. And one of the things that we've really focused in on is how do we make this something cool and creative with a Taco Bell and a Sonic next door. And so one of the things that we've been thinking is potentially programming this street front with a clubhouse and then live-work units or some sort of creative office space, because we don't feel like traditional retail will do very well right here because most of our foot traffic is going to be on Main. This is the easternmost side of Building C. Again, you see Building C. We've got, I believe, 115 units in this building, and this is the garage where ADG and the hotel will park. So the first 2 floors of this building will be reserved parking for both of those tenants, and then our tenants will park upstairs. We haven't quite programmed that out yet. One of the initial debates internally was, where do we put this garage? I did not want the garage on Classen. I wanted it in the middle to do more of a stack and wrap. And one of the things that Mark Tolson pointed out to me was, if you put this garage in the middle and you put units on either side of it, it's going to look really goofy, because this garage to park all of our tenants, the music, ADG, and the hotel, is going to be almost 7 stories, just under 7 stories, whereas our apartments were only going to be 4, and he implied it was going to look like you were giving somebody the bird, and it was just going to, he sketched it out for me, and it didn't look right. And so that's why we moved it over to Classen. One of the other reasons is OG&E has a huge easement right here. You'll notice our dog park to the west, and that's because we've got some power lines there that were just cost prohibitive to play with. The 2 most significant historical buildings on our sites were right here. And Lisa and I have been talking a lot about, is it possible to save those buildings? What else could we do with those buildings? And that we really had a hard time making our site plan work to get the unit mix we needed with those two buildings in place. And so Lisa threw out the idea of, what do you think about saving the facades, similar to how they did it at Maywood, and moving them over onto building C, over onto the garage. And so that's what we've done here. You can see those building facades kept intact. They've got some nice stone and masonry features to them that we would love to preserve. Moving now to building D. This is the final building. We like this building a lot too, because we feel this building really ties in to Film Row. So we tried to make this building a little bit more modern, a little bit more hip, and trying to play off of what's happening down at Film Row, but then also swinging people into Fred Jones. And we'll be right across the street from the music hall. We feel like this building is pretty important to really make Fred Jones pop. So we programmed a 4,000 square foot restaurant on the corner. We have an LOI working with a tenant that we're pretty excited about on that space. And then this will be our main clubhouse. It'll be 5,000 square feet on the first floor. It's actually a four-story clubhouse with a 5,000 square foot gym and then a rooftop pool on it. And we feel like that space with the restaurant, with the live-work units on the east side of Fred Jones, with the music hall, the concert venue, the 21C's restaurant will be facing Fred Jones. We feel that if we program that the way we have planned, Fred Jones has the ability to be pretty great. We would like to do some pavers on Fred Jones, potentially do some Phillips Edison 1918 incandescent bulbs running across Fred Jones. Something to provide a little pop there. So you can see here we've got a two-story podium building, two-story podium parking, five-story building total. So there's the second floor. You can see more of the clubhouse. That's where the leasing offices will be. There's your 5,000 square foot gym, a little courtyard. These units will have a really nice view downtown. And then this is the fourth floor with a little rooftop pool. I say pool, it's going to be 2 feet for construction purposes, but it'll be nice. We're going to program this pretty cool. We envision people standing up here, having a drink, looking down on Fred Jones, seeing the music venue, seeing all the activity, and really making this place a great spot. There's the design from Fred Jones looking east into Building D. You can see a little bit more modern touch here than we've had in the previous buildings. On Main Street, we tried to program those buildings to complement the 21C property, but not, try to be Disneyland and copy it in a very inauthentic way. On this one, we're trying to go much more modern and much more Film Row-ish. And that's the rooftop deck we envision looking downtown. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, you guys? Okay, I'll start out.
All right.
Very excited, and disclosure, my office will be in the 21C Hotel. We're so excited about that, really super excited about that, and I really care about where I'm going to park. However, we didn't see any elevations of the west side of the garage that is directly behind or south of the 21C Hotel. I'd like those to be at least, nice looking.
Understand.
Because I see that corner as being kind of the gateway into Film Row and into your new area. And coming off of the boulevard that will be bringing a lot of people into the downtown area, that's where they're going to be hitting first.
Right.
So that's really got to be, it's got to really kind of speak to the public and make sure that people feel like this is an upscale area. And to be just a plain parking garage is probably not appropriate. And I'm not sure, I can't really tell very much from this.
One of the things, the main reason I wanted it inside was because of how expensive it is to put the facades on it. And the more Mark talked to me, the more I realized we had to move it. And we recognize we've got to do something nice there. I don't believe we have a sketch there because we haven't decided on what we want that to look like. It's that ultimate balance that we're all fighting of making it look great and keeping costs down. And we recognize that this is a big-time part of our development, and we want to do it right. We want to do it right and not spend as much money as we have to spend, but it's that constant balance, and we hear you.
And I feel like I'm always talking about parking garages. I'm getting a little tired of that. But then there's the parking garage on Building A. And I think it, from your rendering, it looks good. It looks like it may activate the street, but there's always that issue of a long span of garage without a lot of interaction for the public, and we're dealing with that. I think we're dealing with that in almost every single meeting now.
Yeah.
And that's pretty frightening to think about that many garages on, significant streets. And this is on Main Street.
It's funny you say that because that has been, again, one of our big debates. Zach and I have been going back and forth trying to figure out how do we program retail on this, at least on the first floor, with Mark Tolson, trying to put it right here, just even if it's pretty shallow storefront. And we've talked with Mark Tolson at length about that, and we've even spoken with Dean Young about buying 20 or 30 feet behind us and basically scooting everything back. And the more we have looked at this, if we've had a hard time making, number one, the economics work, but more importantly, the timeline to buy his piece, scoot everything back, and then reprogram it. We kind of got to the point where we felt like it was going to put too many wrinkles in the deal, and so we just said, let's put a really nice storefront on it. Let's try to make it look like retail, but it's not going to be retail at this point.
Okay. Those are and then the last thing, I haven't seen an elevation of the north side of Building B. And
right here?
And I'm also concerned about that. I mean, you're doing a great job of adding retail there. I know that is a huge thing for developers, is to put their faith that retail will come. And it sounds like you've done a good job of already filling that, but don't know that the north side there.
Right here?
Yeah.
So we envision this tenant potentially, one of the tenants that I'm talking to, our goal would be to, the problem with, what I would like for this tenant to do is to wrap onto the north side, but where Tolson is pushing back with me, if I can find the building. Right here. Is he says he needs all of these parks. And so you see we've got this live-work space here, and what I would like from Mark is to extend that. Can you see this little hand I've got on there? To extend that right here. But Mark is telling me we're already underparked on this building as it is, and my comments are we only lose 2 units, two parking spots, and so if the retailer that I'm talking to does take this space, I think I'm going to push even harder. If we don't have that retailer firmed up, it's a coffee shop, then I might, we're open to whatever you guys recommend. But he likes it better like this. I like it better wrapping the corner a little bit, because I think that's a pretty great corner.
Well, yeah, and it looks like you're really only losing 1 spot if you do what you're doing there. Looks like that's a turnaround bay or something, but I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, my comment, sorry. Anybody else?
Well, I agree with Betsy on parking lots. We're really struggling with the street activation because we now are dealing with so many parking garages. And I think it's very important to us to see some kind of an activation, whether it is really full retail or even small services, dry cleaners, alternative, or maybe even just unique office space that could be small, pickup stations, things like that. Anything that would just continue the street activity from one end of this, since it's such a long block, to the other, I think is is very important. I think this street is just going to be so special and such a great public gathering place that I think we would want to see that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so exciting. I love it.
Thank
Love
you.
the project. Love the live work. I think it'll be successful.
Thank you.
Your architect has arrived, and this has arrived. This kind of really finishes the west side of downtown, the whole complex. It's very exciting. It's fabulous. This particular group has developed Class A stuff. It's a great group. Can't wait. When are you going to present? When are you going to do it? Let's go. It really is fabulous. Timing is perfect. If they ever build the other two buildings, one lawsuit, one TIF deal, but that'll come out of the ground. So the whole west side of town, come on.
I appreciate it.
Raises my values up. I love it.
All right.
But it's extremely well thought out, and they're all over Dallas and Houston, this multi-use deal, and it's very well thought out. And you've arrived, so let's do it.
Thank
What's your timing on presenting?
We are hoping for August, I believe. Isn't that right, Zach? Our goal is August. We're drawing as fast as we
Work out your garages.
Yeah. Yeah,
But it's going to be great. And
Thank
it's
you.
going to fill up, and hopefully you'll make some money.
I appreciate it.
I know he's nonprofit, Mark, but,
Thank you, Dave.
I concur with a lot of the comments. I think it's a very exciting project. I think it's been handled very well. I think the density is great. The massing and the siting of the buildings with the podium stacking, I think is great. It only adds to the density, to the street life, everything you've talked about. I think Fred Jones Avenue is going to be great. The focus, you talked about the inward focus. I think that's really key to creating a neighborhood feel, giving this space an identity. And I think the way Fred Jones Avenue has been addressed can really become the core of that neighborhood. I concur on the garage on Building C. So the west facade, for me, is actually not as important as the south facade and the corner, that being the gateway into Film Row, and tying into that the retail on Sheridan, whether or not that's traditional retail or becomes something else. I think what's positioned on Sheridan is going to be really important because of how Sheridan already has a presence as the Film Row Avenue. So, this whole development becomes that west anchor of Film Row, and there's going to be a lot of infill because of that. So I think the west end of Sheridan does have a strong importance to that because of Sheridan's identity already within Film Row, and then potentially what you do on the north side of the street can influence development on the south side of the street, and really solidifying Sheridan as that corridor. Was street parking taken into consideration when the parking counts were done?
Yes, if you'll notice, we've got as much angled parking as we can potentially tie into that site. We've been working with planning extensively, trying to get as many parks on the street as we can because of how expensive our parking is. We are hopeful that we'll get all of that angled parking on Sheridan approved, and Fred Jones. We have been told there's no way we'll get it on Main Street, so we've got parallel parking on Main. But yeah, it's definitely in our unit mix, and it's accounted for. So if we don't get that Sheridan parking approved, we're going to add a floor to probably Building C, the garage on C, or maybe Building A, but probably onto C. So we're hopeful that we can get that approved. We're working right now with the city to do a traffic study.
With the parking garage C, I do think the west facade is important. I'm not trying to take away from the west facade, but Classen is such a thoroughfare that the west facade does relate, I believe, more to the street and vehicular circulation. I am interested in seeing the west facade of Garage C, and within the context of that elevation, seeing the Fred Jones Hotel as well, and seeing how the west side of that whole block would look as you're going down Classic. I think it's great.
Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, I just want to add and second a lot of the comments that have been made. I think this is a very exciting project, and having seen and walked through a lot of spaces that are similar to this in places like Houston and places like Denver, I think this is going to be a great development. And I do want to say that I appreciate what you guys are doing with bringing those materials from the building that will not be there anymore and putting those onto that front side of Building C on that structure. Really appreciate that. And it's not always that we get to see what will be done after, and so we do appreciate you guys presenting that to us. I also want to add in one last thing, which is just looking at this project overall and how it relates to the rest of Film Row. I feel like it really is going to complement the artistic side of things and how you guys have managed to make it very modern. So I appreciate that too, and very excited to see it.
Thank you.
So Andy, what's the order of the building? What will be built first and second and third?
Right now the goal is to do everything at once. The only thing that might negate that would be we would wait on Building B as a staging ground, but the hope is that we can find somewhere else to stage and do it all at once. It's the hope.
It's going to be a construction zone.
We're trying to limit that.
Okay,
We
very
are
cool.
trying to get that done as soon as possible.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate
We'll
it.
see you in August. Okay, now we're going to go on with the rest of the docket. The consent docket. Does anybody have any discussion on any of the items on the consent docket, or does someone want to move approval of the consent docket? That's Dick and Ike. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, guys. Now, cases for individual consideration. Item A, is the applicant present? Yes. You want to come forward? Mike likes the way you present, Andy.
What's that?
Mike likes the way you present.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not prepared. What are we doing here?
Introduce yourselves and
Okay, Andy Burnett and Mike Pyland, developers with the site.
Yeah, these are the buildings where on Sheridan, in the middle of the block, that they're proposing to demolish to make room for Building A. C, for Building C.
Building C. This is Building C. There are only two structures that I believe are historical. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa.
Right.
And those are the two that we're saving, or the facades that we're saving and putting on the garage.
Right, but in a different location, a little further west.
It's a little bit further west than where they currently are.
So staff felt that was a pretty good compromise. I think with, you have full historic renovation going on with 21C. We have a really nice renovation rehab at 901. Two of the 4 buildings on this case item are they're just junky metal warehouse buildings, but the 921 and 927 that are right up on the street with a lot of great detail on the facades. I think I was excited when Andy offered to rebuild it for the rest.
now beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
That is my opinion.
It was Lisa's idea.
Okay. Do you have any other comments on that?
No, in the staff report, we outlined some of the historic issues for kind of this whole development surrounded on for all of this development. We're considering the historic structure is the Fred Jones Manufacturing Building, and some people might argue that there's additional significance to the building, to the manufacturing and warehouse buildings on the south and east sides, but that hasn't been very well documented by anybody that we can find. So we have concentrated on the main building as the historic with some exceptions.
Okay. Any comments from the committee?
I just think it's refreshing for a change that they're applying for demolition of a building, and we get the plan of what's going to take place. We rarely get that.
Very nice.
And this is a tremendous compliment for it, so I'm totally in favor of the new look.
Well, one of the trade-offs is the density that we
facade.
get
Oh, yeah.
compared to one-story
We
building.
need to have more of that. Take the building down, what's going to be there in place, not a spec deal, so this is terrific.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Anybody else?
I appreciate the saving or I guess I should say at this point, I believe the two brick structures on Sheridan, so 927 and 921, are worth saving, the facades, and this probably should have been in my comments from the previous project, but in the process of moving those, there's always concern about taking down a facade and rebuilding it and keeping the quality of the materials intact. So I'd be curious to know about, and I don't know if you know at this time, about what provisions have been made to move those facades as far as if items get damaged, how do you fill in the brick? And just to make sure that the transfer of those facades is a successful move.
I can't speak to that, but we'll pass those along for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Does anyone in the audience have any comments on this? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve demolition of all 4 buildings
Wait.
of items 1A, 1D, 1B, and 1C, with the primary street facades maintained and integrated into the new development, with the revised design be submitted to staff for final approval.
Okay. That was a Dick and Chuck motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You are approved.
Thank you.
Item B. Is the applicant present? This is 815 Robert S. Kerr. I know you guys have a lot going on.
Alrighty. The project we're bringing here is 815 Robert S. Kerr Avenue. Originally, we submitted an application to not only for demolition, but also for the restructuring for a parking area, not a parking garage. We've retracted that just temporarily, just so we can get our game plan in order. Originally, we were going to use the existing slab as the parking surface, but due to the fact that it's been undercover for many, many years, we don't know the condition of the slab. We might run into ADA issues as well as maybe some drainage issues. We think we're probably just going to bring it to ground level and surface it from there. This, I guess, the size of it is 38,000 square feet, as notated in this outline. The surrounding environments, you have the jail, the Civic Center, we have the county court, or the municipal courts across the street. As they're moving across the street, we feel that there's going to be some limited parking spaces in that area. Already, I guess the 2 parking areas for the Civic Center have been eliminated, so we feel there's going to be a need for that. No telling where the jail is going to be headed in the near future, so we feel that being in close proximity there with new development, parking would be a great idea. I think it's already been voted prior that this area is open to parking structures. It is not in historical value, as you guys have already met on that, and we feel that taking the building down at this point would be kind of in best interest of everything going on downtown. We feel that everything's moving west, and that long term, this is going to be a public parking, not a private parking, by the way. So it'll have public access. Anybody can park there. It won't be a long term. It'll be a daily parking facility. And we plan on taking the material that's currently on the building and salvaging it so that it can, live on in future structures, perhaps. So it's not going to be a complete waste of good material. There's some really nice old wood and stuff in there. Other than that, that's really about it. It's pretty cut and dry. I mean, as of right now, it's a standing structure. We want to bring it down, and I think long-term our goal would be to, as the need develops, that it could be maybe a multi-level parking garage as the need arises in that area. But for right now, we just want to see how the west side develops and kind of slow play it from there and see how things go. I'm a big proponent of downtown as well. I'm building a house as well down just north of Bricktown, so I really feel like being connected to this new urban development is pretty neat thing to be a part of.
So what your plan is to tear down a building and build a surface lot?
Build a surface lot, correct. And that would be currently, and then as the need arises, if the parking becomes an issue in that area, build it up from there to be a multi-story parking garage. But as for right now, demolish the building and make it a single-surface parking lot. But again, we don't have our drawings and everything intact for that, so we're not submitting that as of right now. But that we just kind of want to let you know that that's kind of our future plan.
Any comments?
I would have a hard time taking a building down to make a surface parking lot. I think that's moving in the opposite direction from a density standpoint that we're all looking to go to as far as downtown Oklahoma City. I think there's history in Oklahoma City with tearing down buildings, and we have a lot of surface parking lots now, and I don't know. I'd rather see something be done with the building than to make it into a surface parking.
Well, due to the limited area of parking right now in that area, in order to convert it to anything that could be a residential or office setup, we really have no parking around that area to convert it into that. That was an original idea that we could have put forth, but due to the structure of the building, the way it's designed, I mean, it's nearly 80, 90 years old as far as the structure of it. So the wooden structure, the beams would have to be taken down, and some other ideas come up to be able to keep the roof intact, and you'd have to make interior parking. It's not financially feasible to convert that building into something that could be a multi-use or a multifamily or anything of that. I mean, there's already multifamily going on all around it, so there could be potential saturation for that. We don't know, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't seem financially feasible to do something with that building. So that's why we went in the direction that we went.
I would, as an alternate option, I would be more inclined to demo the building if the development of that site was something more than a surface parking lot. So if reusing the existing building is not structurally or financially feasible, what other development options are there rather than a surface parking lot?
Right. Well, we feel that in the very near future, a multi-story parking garage would be definitely a wonderful idea in that area. I just don't feel that the demand has quite reached that area. We're waiting on projects like you just heard, things of that nature, before we can get there. So until we reach that time period, it's going to be hard to service that debt that's incurred to build a structure that of that magnitude. It's very, very expensive. A lot of concrete goes into that. So until that's there, we can either have a service parking lot or we can have this building, which, you know, if we wanted to leave this building intact until then, that'd be great. But at the end of the day, that's where we think it needs to head anyway, and we'd be back at this same spot asking a couple of years from now, maybe should we go with a multi-story parking garage?
Let me ask you a question. You know, clearly we don't want buildings unoccupied and deteriorating. By the same token, we don't want a building scraped and, you know, we wind up with a field of weeds. So are you prepared to move forward with doing a nice parking lot with landscaping and lighting and all that sort of stuff, or are you just going to scrape it?
No, sir. It's not just going to be scraped with the dirt that grass is growing up. We plan on scraping the parking lot, putting new asphalt, putting a wrought iron fence around it, putting planters, lights. It's going to be automated to where you can pay going in and out. It's not going to be just a scraped dirt surface. Originally, like I said, we were going to use the existing slab, but due to the aesthetics of that, the drainage issue, so on and so forth, we felt that taking it all the way down to ground level and putting something new in that's striped, that has planters and everything that looks nice, would be more in synergy with kind of what's going on, and that way it's not an eyesore. I mean, the building is deteriorating. There's roof issues, structure issues, so it would be a new parking, one-level parking surface. So new asphalt, new concrete, whatever.
Have you considered using it as a interior parking, like a covered parking area, instead of, because the building, if it's I haven't been inside of it, but I assume that the structure is pretty far apart with big bays that would lend itself to parking?
No, it's not. There's vertical 9-inch by 9-inch vertical wood beams every 12 to 13 feet on square. So it wouldn't lend itself to having a good turning radius for cars and stuff like that without restructuring the framework of the actual building. Back then, I guess they didn't, they didn't use metal, so to be able to span long spans to where you wouldn't have obstructions to move around in there, it just wasn't the technology at that time. So we have an excessive amount of vertical upright beams that are 9 or 10 inches in width that are every 12 or 13 feet on square. So we felt we took those down. Nothing's going to be there to hold up the roof, so there'd be a lot of engineering, so to speak, that's going to go into something like that.
Was there a plan that you put together for the surface parking showing improvements that, I mean, can you continue this till we at least see that? I just said it's refreshing that someone has a plan so that we can see what's going to be there in place. But this is a leasable, usable building at this time. Maybe there'll be another entertainment club there or something.
Correct.
But we should at least see what's going to go in place, and I guess you've got that ready?
Yeah, we don't have it ready at this time. We couldn't meet the deadline. We're close. We have an engineer. We have Craft and Toll helping us on it.
Well, would you consider a continuance until we can see that? Because this isn't going in the right direction, I don't think.
I don't mind tabling it at this time if that's what's best.
What's the deadline for their drawings for the next meeting?
It'd be like a week from today, so I imagine you wouldn't have it. We saw some preliminaries, but they didn't have all the required screening accounted for. So we suggested that they break it up into 2 applications. How long, but how far?
We could try for the week, but it may be more like 2 weeks, but we could definitely.
That's for the July meeting.
For the July meeting.
August meeting, we'd need it in mid-July, so about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
So August meeting.
Yeah, I move to continue it to the August meeting.
That was Dick and Chuck. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next item, that would be 913 West Main.
Hi, I'm Zach Martin, representing the residences on Main, here to speak on behalf of the 913 West Main building. So this is a two-story structure. It's duplex, residential in nature. If you've ever seen it, you'll notice that it has a couple of things. One, it's set back significantly from the street, such that it would make it very difficult to reuse the facade or anything of that sort, like we had done on the other sites. If you'll remember back to the site plan that we showed on the overall project, this sits right in the middle of Building A, so quite literally right in the middle of the largest building. So as we looked at it, we just really didn't see any way at all that it could be reused or preserved or anything of that nature.
Other than its age is the only thing that staff saw or could find that suggested this was historic. We couldn't find hardly anything about, what it was used for. It was a variety of businesses built and added on by a variety of people. But because it was built as one of the earliest structures in downtown, I wanted to bring it to committee.
Hasn't it been covered with stucco?
Yes.
Or do you think it was originally stucco?
No, it's been covered.
Okay. Any comments? Any comments from the gallery? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is 901 West Sheridan. Is the applicant present?
Good morning. My name is James Boswell. I'm the architect for 901 West Sheridan. I'll do my best. You guys are familiar, I think, where we're located, corner of West Sheridan and Fred Jones. You've heard about the projects around. How do I go to the next one? To what? There. We are proposing demoing a little section of metal building, which the adjacent property is already discussed. That would be the northwest corner. We'll be building back that corner with some of the reclaimed masonry. It's going to house some service utilities, some restrooms, and storage on the interior. The space is pretty much an open warehouse on the interior. And we're proposing the two-story building. We're going to remove approximately 60% of the second floor, make it a two-story restaurant, music space, open bar. In the one-story building adjacent, we'll house a kitchen for the restaurant facility. Then we're removing the roof of probably 2/3 of that building to create a outdoor space. And in the north section of that, we'll have restroom storage and a green room for the artists that are playing. Second floor, again, is existing wide, pretty much wide open. Like I said, we're removing about 60% of the floor space. And we're creating a mezzanine space that will be looking over that restaurant stage area with its own private bar, bathrooms, and an outdoor balcony space that will overlook Sheridan and Fred Jones Avenue. The existing south elevation is, there's some old metal windows, some glass block infill, and then concrete block on the second floor windows. We're proposing on the west building, which this will be the kitchen area, we're going to lower the windowsill to make the kitchen more visible from the exterior. This is a glass walk-in cooler that will house the kegs and the keg system, and that will be visible from Sheridan. And then we're moving the corner to kind of create a covered entry for the ticket booth and also the main entrance into the building. On the east elevation, that same corner element, and existing almost, I think, all but this corner window, which is glass block. The rest of them are all concrete block openings. So we're proposing to reopen those openings and create some new openings to create the pattern that exists. Those will be probably black storefront windows with some divisions in it, kind of giving a nod to the past, steel windows, but not trying to replicate them. And then we'll have one large window, which will be the open staircase to the second floor. And we're treating this differently since it's a new opening. It will be basically a frameless glass wall system. On the west elevation, the adjacent property is going to have landscaping, and there's an architectural feature on this wall. We're primarily going to be egress only into an open paseo that's part of the development next door. We are going to create kind of an open garden trellis. Inside there will be a kind of a green space berm for people to be able to sit and watch the outdoor stage. And then on the north elevation, which is the alley, there's some existing metal and glass windows on the second floor. This space will be all mechanical, electrical, not really occupied. And concrete blocks, we're proposing replacing those with glass block. This elevation will be visible from 21C and the 21C restaurant. The utility area we're going to screen with gates that will open and close for the trash enclosure and transformer and the grease receptacle. It's basically just renderings and photographs showing you before and after. This is the corner we're opening up, kind of create a connection with the street for pedestrian and restaurant music goers. Again, this photographs before our rendering after. West exposure, you can see that where the roof's taken off. We're going to expose the bowstring trusses and the trusses between. So we'll have that kind of, it'll be open air, but you'll have a feeling of the existing structure. A little bit better view of that from a bird's eye view. This would be the north side alley view of the building. This is we are going to do a little canopy. This will be our loading area for the stage and performers. There's actually a second alternative. They'll be able to use this one too. They'd have to park in the alley to utilize this one. This is a stair for a second means of egress off the back of stage, which is new. It's pretty much repeat of before. Just some conceptual interiors we have. This shows kind of the two-story space when we take out structure and the mezzanine space overlooking the dining area. And this is the outdoor venue with the bowstring trusses exposed. Does anybody have any questions?
This is part of that whole development, so your parking that you're anticipating will be within that complex that's being developed?
Yes, sir.
Street parking, et cetera?
Exactly.
I mean, this is a great reuse for a building. Oh, to be young again. This is going to be a hot club, a really hot club. Where was everything a few years ago? But I'll make it down there. No, I think it's very cool. Great reuse of the building.
Yeah,
very exciting.
We've looked at quite a few scenarios, and our clients have great vision.
This is a huge overall plan. It's just going to be phenomenal.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very unique for Oklahoma City.
Need more parking. Bring that guy back.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? He's playing to the television.
I do. I think it's a great project. Would you mind scrolling forward to some of the perspectives? Keep going. If you stop, go back. So on top of the west building, there looks, that bump out. So that bump out, as well as the west facade of the east building, what finishes are?
That's an existing masonry wall that, to me, appears to be have a parch coat on it, a stucco finish on it. And so this is a new stair tower for egress from the second floor mezzanine space. So we're proposing that being a stucco finish that matches the existing parch coat on the masonry.
So the existing stucco that's there would stay, and then the bump out for the stairway would get a new coat to match?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then my only other comment or question is about the brick. And I mentioned this on with moving the facades of the Sheridan buildings, but it looks like you have quite a bit of brick, salvaging brick, and then infilling brick. So I guess my question is whether or not there's been any calculations about, will you have enough brick to do what you're looking to do, and if not, what are, how would you propose getting more brick or infilling brick?
One thing this doesn't show, we're creating quite a few large openings between the indoor and outdoor space. The two-story building ground floor walls are 17-inch thick masonry walls. So I think we're going to have plenty of brick.
Okay, any other comments? Anybody want to speak to this from the gallery?
Madam Chairman, move to approve.
Okay, we have 3 seconds. I
Make
think
it
I'll
4.
take Ike. That would be Dick and Ike. All in favor? Any opposed? Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
And I hope the first act there, Fred, is Steve Tyrell.
Okay. Next item. 423 Southwest 4th Street. Welcome.
Tenant conflict of interest, huh?
Can you tell us your name?
I'm Denise Balkus. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Alliance for the Economic Development of Oklahoma City, and I'm here on behalf of the Urban Renewal Authority, and the Urban Renewal Authority is under the administrative umbrella of the Alliance.
Okay. Great.
So for, both of, I think many people agree these are old and dilapidated, and there's a much better use coming, and that they might be a nuisance right now in their existing condition. However, they were noted on the intensive level survey as being representative of the early Oklahoma City immigrant population. And the staff and the committee have approved many other demos of this type in this area, and that's making these be even more rare. So therefore, we brought them to a committee to affirm if they are indeed historic resources that should be kept.
Can you tell us what is planned for that area?
The Urban Renewal Authority was given funds by the MAPS office to assist with acquisition of property for the upper and lower park. We were also given money to acquire property adjacent to the park to begin to create essentially a land bank for future development outside the park. So those funds were provided by the city for both the park and these what we're calling these buffer areas. These properties are located in the upper park west buffer area. So with the there's a lot of land speculation going on, as you probably have heard, given that the city is going to be putting a major park. So the urban renewal strategy, and I think the city strategy, was to try to get some of this land under the urban renewal portfolio to create assemblages for future redevelopment when it became market feasible. It certainly isn't now, but once the park gets done. So that's what these properties were acquired. That was the public policy behind these acquisitions, and others we've acquired.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions from the gallery? We have a motion? Second. Chuck and Gigi, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that was one. And now the next one, F. Same thing. This one is a little bit different because it looks like a shotgun house. Makes me wonder how the front porch is being held up.
It does, and I didn't want to get too close to investigate.
So do we have any comments from the committee? Any comments from the gallery? We have a motion? Chuck and Ike, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The next item, I'll just take this opportunity to say goodbye to Ike again. There will be 3 goodbyes there. There is a presentation, Robert Manley of Jacobs.
All right. Shall I go ahead? Thank you for allowing me on the agenda this morning. I know it was at the very last minute, able to get some stuff in. I'm Robert Manley with Jacobs Engineering out of Dallas, and I'm working with the MAPS program on the overall streetcar, but also the maintenance facility that we're locating south of downtown off of Hudson, Walker, and 7th. So I'm going to go through the first part of this presentation pretty quick because a lot of it is more about how we kind of programmed it and some of our earlier initial thoughts. So on the first slide, we show what some other maintenance facilities kind of look like in other cities, Portland on the right and Seattle on the left. So in this presentation, I'm going to show these items. Like I said, I'm going to go through these first slides pretty quick. So in the programming, obviously we look at parking, making sure we have what we need. the streetcar program is not just what's happening today, but also what's happening way in the future. We're starting with 5 vehicles. We're looking at going to 12 vehicles long-term when the whole program's built out. So we want to make sure that the facility on this location is not just opening day. It is long-term. How can you expand it? How can we make it so that it works for the long haul, not just opening? Early on, when we were looking at sites, some of our main things that we wanted to do were make sure that we had compatibility with the neighborhoods, looking at the future neighborhoods, what are happening around that area, and looking at the historical context of the area. And this area specifically because we have Union Station just adjacent to us. And then another piece that we've actually value engineered out at this point, it may come back, is covering all the streetcar vehicles from hail. Because obviously we have hail in Oklahoma City. In the building, we're looking at having maintenance tracks for heavy and for general maintenance. We'll have cleaning areas. We'll be doing mostly like just basic repair. Trucks are actually the axle of the vehicle. We'll be repairing those parts, and we'll be storing parts and pieces for that, as well as lubricants for the vehicles and electrical components for air conditioning and the catenary systems. Adjacent to the maintenance part, we'll have offices, administration, training, break room. Those are going to be really kind of the functioning piece of the building. And then we also have a second floor mezzanine that allows access to the top of the vehicle. A lot of the pieces and parts that make the vehicle run are on the top of it. And we have skirts on the top of the vehicle that hide all that, the air conditioners and such. On the site itself, we'll have storage for the maintenance of way vehicles. Those are pickup trucks that will run out if a streetcar has issues. That'll be a bucket truck that will access the catenary lines, wherever those are. We'll also have storage for the catenary system. We'll have yard tracks. We'll have, obviously, employee parking and service vehicle parking, outdoor storage. We'll have obviously our dumpster and our waste handling. And we've coordinated with the fire marshal for fire truck access. And I think we came up with a really good solution. Things that we're not going to have in this facility. We're not going to have wheel truing in this facility. It's very expensive equipment. We've talked with the operator of the facility, and they agree that they can get DART or BNSF to do their initial wheel truing. We are planning for the future to make sure that we have a space for their equipment when it's a necessary item. We won't have paint booth and body shop. We don't want to get into the requirements that opens up. A lot of EPA issues, a lot of things that you have to do that can really be done by shopping this out. And so that's our recommendation for that. We won't be doing cash collection, vending machines, all that sort of thing. That's actually going to be through probably the bus operations facility. We won't have truck repair facilities for their mow vehicles, their trucks and such. So this just shows the program where we're at. Really, the main covered part of the program, or the interior part of the program, is about 18,000 square feet. And this is our site. Downtown is to the north. This is Hudson. The Union Station is just to our east. And we are essentially we're hemmed in by the highway, by Walker, where we have a large embankment, because now the bridge goes over the highway, 7th Street, and Hudson. One thing I do want to point out on here is the sidewalk on 7th Street is a brand new sidewalk that they built when they remodeled 7th. Our intent right now is to keep that and just cut through it for our driveway access with putting handicap ramps and such. So the building itself is really the epitome of form follows function. Where it's located on the site, we are locating the building because we have to get the tracks in. And we're bringing tracks down Hudson from the main streetcar line, and we will be turning those into the site to access the backside. We want to have all the maintenance functions on the south side where it's really concealed from what happens in the future. We have the fire lane over here with a hammerhead turnaround. The fire marshal gave us kind of a thumbs up on that, so we're really happy. And there is an actual error here. The wash track is actually under the building, and the storage track is outside. We have the wash track under the building because we don't want torrential rainstorms washing the soaps and solids and overloading our sand oil separator before it hits the sewer system, or the storm sewer. So in the building, north side, we have all the office functions, the maintenance bays itself. We have service inspection, heavy maintenance. Again, where the form follows function is the service inspection is mostly the top of the building, or top of the streetcar. So we have to have 2 stories on that side, which gives us basically an interior height of about 24 feet. The heavy maintenance, they actually lift the vehicle up. The vehicle itself is 12 feet tall. They lift the vehicle 60 inches up, and that allows them to move some equipment under and drop the axles off of the vehicle and take those out. And if it's a situation where they need to do heavier repairs, they can do that, and they can put a spare repair on and get the vehicle back into operation. Then the wash track is an exterior component. It is not a complete car wash. It is actually a walk around or walk behind wash system that you essentially fill up with water and the soaps. You run it down the sides and around the vehicle, and then you rinse your vehicle off. So it's not what you would consider like your drive-through car wash that is constantly going. And in reality, they probably wash all the vehicles one time a week, or maybe even less, depending on how dirty they get. So up above, we have the mezzanine area that's accessed by the stair. We also have electrical shop because that's where all those electrical components are. And the access to the top of the vehicle is through gates that do not open until the vehicle is in place, and it breaks sensors that allows that lock to trigger open. That is a safety feature that we have so that this service platform on the far side, you can't get access. It is not accessible unless the vehicle is in and those beams are broken. So looking at some pretty pictures, the building is about 180 feet back from Hudson, and it is about a little over 100 feet back from 7th Street. Again, the reason we had to locate it that way is in order to get those tracks into the back side of the facility. It really pushed us down to the south, and we're having to do some interesting gymnastics with Hudson in order to get the tracks up to our grade site that we're setting our finished floor. So that we need that whole distance to make those yard tracks work. We're trying really hard not to impact the slope Walker, and we are impacting a little bit, but it's going to be a short retaining wall. We kind of worked back and forth with our track engineers trying to make sure that we had as minimal impact from the cost for that. So looking at the facade, this goes back to one of our directives was we wanted to make sure that we had that relationship to the historic building. Adjacent to us is the historic Union Station. It has an ashlar coarse limestone. We feel that we can pull that and be cognizant of that, but not putting the arches and all the parts and pieces of there, but pull that limestone, pull the lintels, and use that same vocabulary, but not be completely repetitive of that. So that's where we pick up this front limestone wall, and actually the height of the limestone wall is the same height as the front wall at the center point of the Union Station. We also, Union Station has a clay tile roof that is kind of an orangish red. We're picking up that color in a metal panel awning. So again, we're hearkening back to that, but we're not repeating it exactly. We're not trying to put clay tile roof on this. So also from the east elevation, this faces directly towards Union Station. On this, the west elevation of Union Station, we have garage doors that are part of a loading dock. We're using that same door configuration to match on our door configuration for our streetcars. So you'll have that relationship again, but it's not completely repeating it. And here's where you can really see the form follows function. The high point is 26 feet. The low point over here is, at this center of this bay, is 19 feet. That allows us that height to get the streetcar inside raised up without hitting the structure. And that just creates a nice, perfect, clean slope, which will be standing seam. The walls of the building on the backside will be an architectural metal panel, a ribbed panel, with a lower wainscot of burnished CMU. And again, the roof on the main part of the building is going to be standing seam. This shows the west elevation. This is what faces towards Walker. Again, the rib panel, the burnished CMU. Rib panel will go around behind that CMU wall on the backside of the, or sorry, limestone wall. The backside of the limestone wall will actually have just a concrete plaster that will match that color of the panels. And then the roof on the office part is actually going to be just a 3-ply built-up roof. It's flat with internal drains. So this looks towards Walker from Hudson 7th. You can kind of see where the slope is back here, how the streetcar comes in behind this property, and COPTA owns the parking lot, and, sorry, Embark owns the parking lot. And there is currently a resident in the residence here in the house, but I know the MAPS program is working diligently to buy that house. It's not currently part of our program, but it's something that we're going to probably incorporate later on. To screen our program and our building from the residence and screening the back area where we'll have material storage, we're proposing to use a wood fence, except for where you would have pedestrian or vehicle access, we'll use a wrought iron, either a sliding gate or a swing gate. So you can see the wood fence back over on the back side over here. Standard dumpster enclosure with the same burnished CMU. The one feature that we felt helped add to the entrance, to identify where the entrance of the building was just what we call a little jewel box. And that just is a very, very simple kind of a modern touch to this talking back to the history. And here you can actually see where the limestone of the building and the limestone of our building kind of relate. So this looks at the materials. The awning is going to be a metal panel. The wall itself will be the ashlar coarse limestone. The lower wainscot around the backside of the building will be the burnished CMU. The architectural metal panels will be a deeper rib, so it gives some definition, and then a standing seam. One thing that we looked at a long time ago, we're not putting this parking garage here at this point, but we did not want to preclude having a parking garage here when the park is built. So the park is under construction or under design right now. That's the big central park that's over west of Hudson. They feel that there may not be enough parking in the future for that. So we went back and we said we could put our building and make sure that in the future we have room for a parking garage. Again, this is not designed. This is just something that we said if we had a basic typical parking garage, we can fit it. One of the benefits of this is that it actually gives us streetcar storage underneath the third floor. And so all the streetcars in the future could be underneath that, and you would never have to worry about hail. So meeting with Lisa early on, we identified that we do have a couple of variances. Obviously, in this area, in the design criteria identifies that this needs to be a 3-story building. We really can't do a 3-story building unless we put a residence on top of this, and we just don't see that that is happening. So there's going to be we see a variance for that. Also, the setbacks in this area are set to be 10 feet back from the face of curb. That makes a lot of sense when you're trying to build up the density. But for the maintenance facility, we really need to, again, have those tracks be able to get in. And that's set where the building set on the site. So we feel we'll need to do a variance for that. We also have looked, originally I wanted to use chain link fence, which is not an acceptable item, and then possibly using wrought iron fence, but that's cost prohibitive. So using the wood fence actually allows us to store materials behind it and within the building without being visible to the public. So those are the variances that we see, and that is my presentation. Have any questions?
Can you go back to the site plan and show us where the outdoor storage will be?
There's going to be, these are going to be future tracks back here. So there will be a little bit of storage for probably a couple of catenary poles, which would be like basically light poles, and some other miscellaneous items back in the back here. There is a wood fence that we're proposing with a wrought iron fence here, but a wood fence across here and across here with a wrought iron across Hudson. And then most of the things that you'll see, or you would not see, but most of the things that we're going to store are going to be underneath the wash bay back in here. This is an outdoor storage area. So the intent is to keep 99% of it back here. It's just a couple of large items that we'll have back in the yard.
Okay, so they'll be next to I-40.
That's correct.
Also, what's the material that the track yard, what kind of, is it asphalt, is it?
The track yard is actually going to be ballasted track.
What's ballasted track?
Ballasted track is very similar to what you see on the heavy rail over on BNSF, where it's actually the granite
gravel,
ballast
kind of?
gravel.
Okay.
So the yard itself will be ballast. Along Hudson will be an embedded track, which is actually in the concrete, and you can drive on that.
Then another question on the fence, on that rendering, it shows the fence extending almost all the way out to the sidewalk. That seems like, to me, I don't like that.
Pull that back. Currently there's a chain link fence here and around this property, and the intent was just to put our fence in front of that until the time, as we move through our design, I'm expecting that fence to completely go away. But at this point, until this residence is purchased and identify what's going to happen to it.
Is there any requirement that the fence would have to go clear out to the street? Because that doesn't seem appropriate to any.
No, that property owner can fence their property line. In some other districts, there are guidelines that we hold it back 20 feet or so. But it's usually assuming that it's turning into another one. And front yard fences aren't allowed. So, we can, when Robert gets further along, we can look at. I understand what your concern is.
I don't have a problem holding it back 20 feet. I don't think it's not going to do anything.
That's typically maybe I'm just talking about historic districts, but typically you have to hold it back behind the front wall of
face. No, that's not a guideline in downtown.
Okay. Any other comments? Sorry. Questions?
Yeah, I just have one. You have that waste area up at the northwest corner.
Yes.
I was wondering about the material that you might use.
It's going to be CMU, and I'm planning to use the same metal panel from the building, the ridge metal panel, as actually the gates themselves. So it'll have that relationship, but it'll conceal the dumpsters inside.
Okay. Is there any way to get that to be limestone as well?
Possible.
I'd just given its position to the street and the effort that's been made to make the north side of the building the limestone to match Union Station. I don't know, it seems to make sense that anything that's addressing the street that closely could all tie together and relate from
That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, I think we can take a look at that.
And then that garage scared me.
It's a big mass.
It is a big mass, and I mean, something like that would really take away from the building you're proposing right now. And any effort that was made to have a relationship between this building and Union Station, from a use standpoint, from a material standpoint, something like that would just completely.
Yeah, we actually we put a few minutes of thought into it, and thought that wall that's our front wall could actually transition into a lower edge of the parking garage that would actually even really more tie those two buildings together. And then maybe above, we picked up the metal panel from the building, and then we added some red accents in. So there's ways I think you could minimize the massiveness of that structure and make it fit with the neighborhood more.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier about whether or not they should show what might go there, and but your comment captures it. The maintenance facility that's proposed is not it's not up to the street, and it's not as big as the DBD regulations say it should be. But other development on this block is subject to those rules also, unless they try to go for a variance. So we were talking, Robert introduced it as a parking garage. Ideally, there'd be some ground floor active use stuff right at the corner facing the park in a very big, dense way. So that's what I think they were trying to capture.
Yeah, we didn't really want to show anything of design because we don't know what it could potentially be, but we identified something on that corner that has that relationship to the park. You know,
and we talked about it because if that has that relationship, maybe it is, we can all accept it's less important that the maintenance facility try to have the relationship.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead. So one of the things I do like about this, because it is a maintenance facility, kind of screened by that I-40 wall, yes. And I think that's a fortunate thing. And I understand that you're probably just kind of just coming up with a block to illustrate parking, but do you have any idea how many parking spaces that would?
That would, I think when we laid it out the first time, this was several years ago, it would be somewhere around 350 or so. Potentially even more. So we try and keep it to 2 levels on the main part and then a 3rd level that actually spanned all the way across the yard tracks. Our biggest thing of, you know, we don't want to get into the parking garage, but we also don't want to preclude something happening in the future. So the building is actually designed so that it can expand in the future for the street cars when they come in. We don't want to say, yeah, we can expand this, but now you can't build your parking garage. So we see the future need may be there, so we don't want to impact that.
Very good. Thanks for being here. Any other comments or questions? Any of you guys want to say anything?
Did I talk too long? What's the time? We are hoping, right now we're about 30% design. We've got our PDR in, and we're going to take this to subcommittee next week. And then we're looking to be under construction early to mid next year.
You have to get a variance for that yard, the gravel yard?
Outdoor storage is not permitted. So
that gravel track yard would be considered part of the outdoor storage?
Well, if it's a track yard, but opening day, it's outdoor storage. Yeah, for cars.
Yeah, so we can certainly do a variance for that if that's necessary.
Yeah, they've talked to Development Services that's an issue.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep, it's going to happen. We're almost done, you guys. We have a bunch of administrative approvals. Are there any that are significant that we need to know about?
No, just another extremely busy month for Downtown Design Review. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
Thank all of you, Guy, Laura, Paula, and Lisa, for working so hard on that. I know it was a big deal. We have District Court. Who's taking, this is the bus station?
This is the bus station. It starts next Wednesday. Next week. Next week.
Okay. How about the Board of Adjustment hearing on that Walnut building?
It was continued to August. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay. The next meeting is July 16th.
That will be
we'll
your
miss.
first live.
I know. Oh. And if you think tomorrow's going to be humid here, oh my gosh. Oh, that's right. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful time with your new family down there. We'll expect you to move back anytime. Quickly. Any other comments from the committee? Staff?
Next month is your first live broadcast.
Oh, we weren't on television today. That's good.
You were taped, you weren't live, so just a reminder to turn on your microphone.
Okay, great.
Simply because you're getting the HP committee slot, you don't need to go as long as they do. Simply because you're getting the HP committee's time slot doesn't mean you have to go as long as they do.
That is very true.
I'm just saying, I think Dick agrees with me. Dick will agree with me.
We are adjourned.